Hello, welcome again. Now, I've just done a video about why I've had a very long absence. So this is the second video to my previous one. Previous one is just basically a bit of a rant why I've been away for such a long time. So this is the second video. It's not a follow-on video, it's just what I want to discuss about scandy grinds, true scandy grinds versus just scandy grinds with micro bevels and things. There's it's the most talked about thing at the minute, and some people are right, some people are wrong. There's a few misconceptions regarding if, why and but, why they do what they do. So I'm just going to break it down to my understanding of it, and I'm not going to review this, but I'm going to show you this. Okay, so this is my new neck knife, which I'll be carrying, my neck knife, and this is a Rocker Kipositori, if I can pronounce it. My Finnish is not very good, which is like a military spec version of a traditional puukko, Finnish puukko. I have owned one of these knives before, but it wasn't in this steel. The steel was A2CRV2. I think this is N690. Yeah, so this is Bowler N690 stainless, which I really like. N690 steel is really good. As far as stainless steel goes, don't like it as much as A2CRV2, but that's only because I like A2CRV2. As far as traditional puukkos, Finnish puukkos and laukus go, I have a soft spot for A2CRV2 carbon steel. The downside to carbon steel A2CRV2 is that it's prone to rust. Obviously, stainless steel. Some of the stainless steels don't. If that sun's in, I can just see the sun reflecting in the thing. I'm going to cut my head off. But anyway, so it's going to be a bit wonky, but I don't want the sun reflecting off the screen. So, but obviously I don't like stainless steel as much as carbon steel. That much is clear. But it doesn't mean I don't like stainless steel, because I actually do like some stainless steels, and this is one of them. N690 Bowler N690 stainless steel. So if I was to make a list of my favourite stainless steels and my favourite carbon steels, this would definitely be on my stainless steel list of my favourite stainless steels. N690, I just love it. Love N690 stainless steel. It's incredibly strong, very durable, easy to sharpen, not so easy to rust, not as good as rust resistant as some other premium high stainless steels, but as far as wear and tear with regarding to it being wet, it's still up there. It performs excellent, really good steel, and it's quite an old steel now. It's not a new super steel, what you get. It is actually quite it's a steel that's not as premium now as it once was, but it's still really good. It's really good steel. Highly recommend N690 steel. When it's done properly and heat treated properly and tempered properly, then it's faultless. It's really good quality steel, N690. Not as easy to sharpen as A2CRV2 carbon steel, which is another version of this, which unfortunately now is discontinued. Rocker does not make A2CRV2 of these blades anymore, unfortunately, and I silly mistakenly sold my 80CRV2 version because I didn't think it was going to become discontinued. I thought it was going to be one that they're going to develop all the time, have all the time, but unfortunately it has discontinued now, and it's been replaced with N690 steel. You can get the coyote brown colour or the black colour. This is probably more of the common one. It's getting a little bit harder to find the ones with the black rubberized handle now. But anyway, a full review of this knife will be coming soon, probably in the next week or two. But one of the reasons why I'm making this video is about scandy grinds. I do like scandy grinds. They do kind of, in a world of bushcraft, scandy grind is kind of king. Everybody has scandy grinds because it's kind of a do-it-all master of none, a kind of grind for bushcraft. Scandy grind is excellent at slicing. It's excellent at carving, like making tent pegs, notches, spoons, whittling, things like that. A really good scandy grind is pretty much king at carving wood. There's no better grind out there that can carve wood as good as a really good scandy grind. Now, I like my scandy grinds like this. I like my scandy grinds to be high, like it is on this rocker, and the reason for that is it's a much better slicer. It's much better for processing wood, much better for carving, but some people prefer a much shallow, probably thicker but shallow grind, but I don't. I like my scandy grinds to be slightly higher than your average scandy grind, which is what you get on most traditional Pucos. They tend to be like this, a high scandy grind. So yeah, this is ideal. Will be, and I'll tell you my reasons for it when I do my review in a week or two of this knife. I've got a few more things to do before that. So yeah, this is going to be my go-to neck knife now, which I'll explain in when I come to review it. But again, without going off the topic, we're talking about scandy grinds, okay? So for all intents and purposes, I think the sun's gone in there. So for all intents and purposes, the finish scandy grind is a tool that is really well, works really well for what they do. It's good for, especially when you've got a high scandy grind like this, it's good for processing wood, it's good for carving, it's good for skinning, all the things that the Sami people do with the Pucos, this can do. But there is several different types of scandy. These days there's quite a few different types of scandy, but what I'm talking about here is what is being coming up on some of the bushcraft groups, especially on Facebook, is the when people show off the knives or use the knives or whatever, there's always one person that comments, yeah, but that's not a true scandy grind, because a true scandy grind hasn't got a secondary bevel. And that's the way it goes. All it takes is one person to say that, and then the whole group or the whole discussion turns into one big argument. I mean, they are right, okay, but they kind of, there's a fine balance between the two. I'm not saying they're wrong, and I'm not saying they're 100% right. So they're kind of wrong and they're right, if you get me. But when do you need it? When do you need a zero scandy? When do you need a scandy grind that's got a secondary bevel, which is not a true scandy? Because apparently the word on the street or the bushcraft community is if it's not a true zero grind, it's not a scandy grind, and that's a load of BS. I can argue to you blue in the face. That's utter BS. Okay, so if you've got a scandy grind like this and it has a secondary bevel, okay, why is it not a scandy? In fact, if it's not a scandy, what is it? It's not a convex grind, it's not flat grind, it's not hollow grind. You know, what is it? You know, I mean, there's a lot of new terms with knives these days. Terms like a scandivex, which is a combination of a scandy grind and convex, so they named it a scandivex. But with a scandy grind with a secondary micro bevel, there isn't really a name for it. But straight away, people are saying it's not scandy grind. It's not scandy grind. Scandy grind does not have a secondary bevel. Well, sorry, but it does. It does. So a true zero scandy grind is still a scandy grind. A scandy grind with a secondary bevel, micro bevel, is still a scandy grind, but it's not a true scandy grind. Okay, it's a scandy grind with a secondary bevel. So when would you use it? Okay, so here's where the argument is. If you have got a true zero scandy grind, okay, and a true zero scandy grind is pretty much king at carving wood, because that's what it's designed for. You know, no grind will ever be a true scandy grind if you're carving wood. If that's what you're going to be using it for, you just can't. There is no grind out there, and you can argue till you're blue in the face, there is no grind out there for carving wood that's as good as a zero scandy grind. There just isn't. You know, it's what it's designed for. It's what it does best. So why then would or when would we be using a scandy grind with a secondary bevel? What's its purpose? What's it for? To a lot of people, there's an obvious answer, and there is an obvious answer, and that's to add a little bit of strength to the edge of the apex all the way along to the tip. So why do they do it? Now, Mora has been doing it for decades, okay? In fact, to my knowledge, and I've owned hundreds of different Moras, going back from, you know, the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and I've never owned a Mora that hasn't got a micro bevel on it. So why do they put a micro bevel on it? Why don't they do a zero scandy? And again, it's because if you have a zero scandy grind, even if it's had the best heat treatment, the best temper, and it's made by the best knife maker in the whole world, okay, you have still got a weak edge, because a zero scandy grind knife is specifically designed for carving wood. It is not designed for chopping. It's not designed for batoning your knife through a log. It's not designed for that. Okay, and if you want a heavy duty scandy bushcraft knife to do not only for carving wood but to process wood, to be a camp knife, it has got to have a secondary bevel on it, a marker bevel. It just has, especially if you're going to be splitting wood. if you try to split a wood or chop wood with a 0 scandy grind, right, you will get chips, you will get rolls, and that has got nothing to do with the heat treat. That's the way it happens, because a 0 scandy grind is ground from the shoulder here all the way down to the apex, the very apex, and it's ground so thin that if you was to hit anything like a piece of wood or anything, that edge will chip, will start to chip, it'll start to roll pretty much straight away, because that's not what it's designed for. It's designed purely for carving. If you want a heavy duty bushcraft knife that you can bat on with, maybe do some light chopping, like de-limbing or something like that, which is perfectly fine for this kind of size knife, then it has to have a micro bevel. If it's not got one of those, you're going to be forever sharpening it. You'll be forever sharpening, using the stones, etc. And that's the only reason why I or any normal person would buy a 0 scandy, is for carving. I've got a wood carving kit at home, like a whittling kit, and in that kit I do have a small 0 scandy grind knife, but I would never ever use that knife for bushcraft, right, unless I put a secondary micro bevel on it. Because I know if I started using that knife and started getting a piece of wood like this and start batoning, I know it'll start to break out the edge. I know it'll start to roll. I know that for a fact. And people that don't know that, they will buy a 0 scandy knife, and then they'll start to do all these things, and then the edge starts to roll, starts to chip. So then they take it back to manufacturer, then they start complaining, saying this is not heat treated right because I've got breakouts on my edge, it's chipping, it's rolling too easy, so it must be down to your heat treat. And it's not. You know, these professional knife makers, especially custom knife makers that's been doing it for many years, you know, they know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing, and it is quite rare for you to buy a premium knife, especially bushcraft knife, that's not been heat treated properly. That is a really rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it does happen. We're all human at the end of the day, we do make mistakes, but it's very rare that it does happen. These guys know what they're doing, they've been doing it long enough, of course they know how to heat treat steel. You know, it's what they do, it's what they do for a living, it's what they've trained to do, so of course they know how to do it. So 9 times out of 10, it's not down to the steel, it's the person using it, what you're using it for. And that's what, in a bushcraft or survival community, whatever you want to practice, you know, you've got to address what you're using it for. Are you using it just for carving wood, for whittling? Are you going to be using it for that? If the answer is yes, then buy a 0 scandy. You know, it's no brainer, you know. But if you are using it for bushcraft as well as carving, so if you're using it for splitting wood, if you're using it for just a bit of light chopping for de-limbing, etc., then you need a scandy grind with a secondary micro bevel. Now some micro bevels are thicker than others. I prefer the micro bevel where it's probably about less than a millimetre, half a millimetre, probably even smaller. It's not difficult to put a micro bevel on a scandy grind, it's not. You know, run a file over it, run it over a stone a few times each side, and then you'll start to get a micro bevel. You know, it's a 5-minute job, it's not difficult, anybody can do it with basic tools. So even this Rocker Gipuzzatori knife, from first glance it looks like a true full Scandy zero grind at first glance, but when the light reflects on it and when you look at it with your naked eye closely, it's quite dark and gloomy today, so you probably won't see it. It's really difficult. Camera's not going to pick it up, but trust me when I say this, this has got a tiny micro bevel. You know, it's not difficult to see. As soon as the light reflects on it, you can see it straight away. And I have batoned with this, and I've even chopped with this despite the size, and so I know it's got a micro bevel on it. You can clearly see that. You just have to take my word for it, but it has got one. If it didn't have one, and a Rocker, they heat treat their knives, I believe, to like ridiculous hardness, something like some are like 62, 63 on the Rockwell scale, 62, 63 HRC, which is really hard. But if it's heat treated right and the steel can take it that high, then you've got an incredibly strong knife. But again, this is kind of a heavy duty Puko, like a military grade Puko. So naturally, it will have a micro bevel on the edge, because obviously it's going to be used for heavy duty. People are going to be using this for split wood. People are going to be using this for delimbing branches and things. When you get to use knives, the difference between a Scandy grind with a micro bevel and a zero Scandy grind that's not got a micro bevel, to the trained, not to the trained eye, but to the trained person or the person with a lot of experience with both, which I have, you do notice a slight difference. Obviously with a zero Scandy, a true Scandy, there's less drag, especially when you're carving wood, especially when your feather sticking. There is a slight drag when you're using a Scandy grind with a micro bevel, but depending on how thick the micro bevel is on the Scandy, there's not a great difference between it. You know, it's only minor. You can still do great curls with this. You can still carve, use this as a carving knife really, really, really well. This excels in that area. And even though this has got a tiny micro bevel, there's nothing in it. There's not a lot in it, and people complain about it and they say, you know, it's not a true Scandy, because it's a true Scandy is like a zero grind. It's got no micro bevel on it, and you know, and yes, they are right, but you know, if you're using a knife purely for bushcraft, you know, it's got to have some sort of micro bevel on there. It just has. Otherwise, you're going to be forever sharpening it. You're going to have dings, chips, rolls, everything. And it's not the steel, right? It's the user. It's the geometry that's making it do that. Okay? This, I've batoned with it, I've done some light chopping with it, carving with it, and the edge, there's nothing on it whatsoever. There's no reflections, no chips, no rolls. I haven't had to strop it. In fact, I don't think I've stropped this for about 2 weeks, I don't think. I've oiled it, but I've not actually stropped it. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's still razor sharp. It's still hair popping sharp. So, you know, could it get any sharper? Yeah, but I don't want it to get any sharper. If I took that micro bevel off and turn it to a zero, then it would completely change this knife. It would weaken that edge, and I don't want the edge to be weak. I want it to do its job. I want it to do what I want it to do. And you know, this, by the way, this Rocker Compulsory N690 steel, such a good knife. just thought I might just throw that in there. Yeah, it's really good, and I will do a full review on it within the next couple of weeks or so. I've got little things, a few things doing. Don't like to repeat myself, but you know what I'm like. But yeah, really good knife, which I won't go into because I'm not here to review that. I'm here to talk about scandy grind. So yeah, that's my argument on scandy grinds. So for bushcraft purposes, splitting wood, light chopping, a few carving tasks, yes, you do need some sort of micro bevel on there. The size of the micro bevel, that's going to be a difference between being a good carver and a bad carver. So the thicker the micro bevel, right on the very edge of the apex, the worse it's going to perform. It might be good for chopping, it might be good for batoning, but it won't be good for carving. So there's a compromise. So if you had a scandy grind like this with only a teeny tiny micro bevel going all the way across there, which this one has, that's all you need. It adds a little bit of strength to the very edge of your blade. It won't chip, and it won't roll. And yeah, I can hammer on this all day, and that edge won't even be touched. And again, it's not down to the excellent heat treat. Well, it isn't, but it's the fact that they've got a very tiny micro bevel on there protecting that edge for impact. So I'm just gonna summon this up and just trying to hit this nail on the head that the community is raging about, and I don't understand it. You know, there's always one village idiot that says it's not a full scandy, it's got a micro bevel on it. Who cares? You know, if you wanna take a carving knife into the field of bushcraft and you want to chop and baton it and everything, be my guest. But I can guarantee you'll be sharpening your knife every 5 minutes. But if you want to use it as a camp knife, then you need a stronger edge. It's as simple as that. And if you want a really strong edge that does just as good a job as the scandy, then go with a full convex, because a full convex is basically a Scandinavian grind that's basically been rounded. So instead of straight coming from the shoulder and straight into the going thin, before it reaches the apex, it starts to round off a bit, and that puts incredible strength behind that edge. So yeah, a Scandinavian grind with a secondary micro bevel and a full convex grind are two of my favourite grinds, and that's basically it. So it all depends what you want to use your knife for, but for heavy duty tasks, don't use a zero scandy, because you're not going to like it, you're not going to enjoy sharpening it every 5 minutes. So it needs some sort of micro bevel on there. If you don't like micro bevels, then get a full convex, and that'll do all the jobs for you around camp and be a good carver as well. So yeah, anyway, full review of this coming soon, so stay tuned guys, and let me know your comments down below what you think about true scandies and secondary bevel scandies. Bye bye for now. Bye bye.